Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host for today, Tom Woods, and we have been putting this one off for a long time because this film actually came out towards the start of June, I believe. I think the UK release date for this one was June the 3rd. This is Me Before You. This is the romantic drama directed by Tia Sharrock, starring Emilia Clarke, Sam Claflin and Charles Dance. Quite a fairly all-star cast in this one. There's a lot of famous faces that crop up, but this is based on a book by the same name by Jojo Moyes, I believe you pronounce the name. Well, I don't even know where to begin with this one, in all honesty. I remember the trailer coming out for this one, and I think I actually watched this trailer as soon as it went up live with Tate. I think we just finished a review, and then he checked the sub box, and he was like, "Oh, check out this new trailer with everyone's favourite Queen of the Dragons, Emilia Clarke in." And we both watched it at the same time, and it was an extended trailer. And I showed it to you. It's more or less the entire movie condensed into 3.5 minutes. So just watch the trailer. You don't need to see this because you get everything you need from that.
We may as well have not paid money to see this. Really.
Yeah. And I just showed it to you as a joke. I was like, "Oh yeah, did you see the trailer for that piece of shit Me Before You film?" Like, I hadn't seen it at that point. I just sent it you, and you was like, "You know what? I'm going to go and see this movie tomorrow." And then you sent me a picture over Facebook of you with the ticket stub, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's actually gone ahead. He's actually gone ahead with it. He's actually doing it." It was like a dare. Me and Tate were going to go and see it as a joke just for the channel because, you know, just these kind of films, they're so not my kind of film, and I'm sure they're so not Tate's kind of film. I know he likes his romantic films, but not the ones like this. I mean, this is definitely one that's specifically made and tailored to be a certain style, and we're going to go into it anyway. So, as always, our reviews are spoiler-free at the start, and then when we get to spoilers, we will let you know. But this is going to be an interesting one. I'm sure it's going to be a rant-filled one. So, let's get into our review for Me Before You. So, should I start with the plot for this one before we go into our initial thoughts and thoughts before going in?
You should.
Okay,
just to give people an idea.
Yeah, let's give them some context. So IMDb reads, "A girl in a small town forms an unlikely bond with a recently paralysed man she's taking care of." That pretty much sums it up right there. IMDb does a good job once again. So, thoughts before going in. I've kind of given mine, but what was going through your head after I showed you this trailer the other day?
This is probably something I'm never going to see, but I ended up seeing it.
What possessed? Or did you just do it for the channel, just because you wanted to get a review for it, or were you morbidly curious?
Yeah, I mean, you have to see. You can't just be a critic and go and see the good films. You've got to see the bad ones.
You have to give it that chance, right?
You have to. And I mean, going in, I thought, well, this has my quote unquote favourite character in Game of Thrones in it. How bad could it possibly be? And I was proven right yet again on my opinions of Emilia Clarke's acting, and also the fact that her character in Game of Thrones is awful. But I don't know. It was just. I thought it would be a bit sappy and just be a bit boring. Generally, that's kind of how I thought it would go. But my God, was I wrong?
And I should say, me and you have had many a discussion in the past about Emilia Clarke's acting, specifically in Game of Thrones more than anything. You didn't actually make it, unfortunately, to any of our Game of Thrones discussion videos that we did. But I know you actually haven't watched Season 6 yet. Did you watch Season 5 and kind of dropped off it after that?
I kind of... It kind of got to the point where I just wasn't bothered whether I watched it or not. So I've caught up with. I've watched loads of clips online for it, for each episode, for all the best bits, I guess,
Mm.
and the inside the episodes as well, to give that sort of horrible creator analysis, which just is complete bullshit. Yeah, and I thought the favoritism shown in that for Dani is redonkulous, and she's my most hated character on television. And Emilia Clarke almost took the spot for my most hated character in cinema.
Jesus.
In this film.
Well, if I'm going to go into Emilia Clarke for me, I completely agree. Every time it cuts to her character, she is an absolute wet blanket in that show. And I mean, she is surrounded by incredible talent, and even actors that started off a little shaky. For example, Kit Harington. Like, I know he's not the greatest actor in the show even now, but I think he has grown as a character in it. Whereas Daenerys, I just haven't. She hasn't really got much range. She's in a lot of crying scenes and she's in a lot of action scenes, but she always plays it the same, always one note. And then I had to watch that cinematic just abortion of a movie, which was Terminator Genesis, where she played Sarah Connor. And I guess that was going to be a poison chalice for any actress following Linda Hamilton's fantastic performance in The Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. But Jesus, Emilia Clarke? Really? You're going to pick her to be the leader of the Resistance? So there was that. I've got nothing against Emilia Clarke in person. I'm sure she's absolutely lovely. I've never met her, but I'm just speaking from my opinion on her acting, and we're probably going to get loads of hate mail on this. Bring it on, I don't care.
Who cares? They're all wrong. They're all wrong.
I think that her character in Game of Thrones... This turned into a Game of Thrones discussion. We will bring it back to the movie in question at the minute, but I think that Daenerys' character is an interesting character in the books, but just how she's been written for the show and how she's portrayed, I don't get that connection with it in the show. If we're talking about other people involved with the film, the director, it's either Tia or Thea. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Let's go with Tia. Tia Sharrock. She has directed a lot of theatre productions and things in the past. She's done a bit of Shakespeare. She directed Tom Hiddleston in Henry V, which was one of the episodes in The Hollow Crown, which is a BBC TV series, which you actually told me before we started recording you were in.
I was, as an extra. So you may see me in that with just, it may not even be me. You may... To be honest, it could be just my hand.
You're really selling this, Tom. This is your favourite moment.
I was an extra standing behind Keely.
Oh my God, Tom!
Don't want to say the name wrong because I know how it's pronounced, but it just sounds stupid. Stood behind Keely Hawes and.
I'm sorry. Carry on. that was immature of me. Carry on.
Yes, it was. So yeah, I was in that, but got directed. Actually, it wasn't even that woman that directed that bit I was in. It was some bloke. Really? Yeah,
may have been second unit or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But this is her directorial debut. So, I'm always interested to see like a new upcoming actor to see what they can do for their first movie. This movie was done on a budget of $20 million and has taken in so far a whopping $138.5 million, which is insane. I have never read this book before. I've never even heard of the book until this movie was coming out. So
I was half expecting you to say like 184 pounds.
Well, no, because they had to hire that castle, remember, and the beautiful landscapes and town.
No, I mean, I've just got to come out and say it. This film is it's shit. Right? let's just get it out of the way. It's shit. It's a turd, but it's not even a smelly turd that you just find repulsive. It's just a turd that is there. You will look at it and go, "That's disgusting." Whereas with a actual shit, you can like that's smelly. You can go, "Oh, you can like
tell your friends, look at that stinks. Whereas this, it's just there. It's you walk past it and it's an irritant on the floor. It's an irritating presence on your shoe. I mean, I hated it. From start to finish, it was abysmal. The acting, the shoddy, like, it was a pretty poorly directed movie as well. It was too sentimental, and it was just ridiculously idiotic. And the whole reason this I mean, at the start, the guy gets run over.
No spoilers. Remember, just go from what we see in the trailer. But yeah, that's in the trailer.
That is in the trailer.
The whole movie's in the trailer.
That happens right at the very beginning. So it's not really a spoiler. You're going to see it at the beginning of the movie.
All because he doesn't follow his Green Cross code.
Yep, and
basically
he decides to, instead of like riding his motorbike, decides to walk in the rain, ignoring his girlfriend's cry for like, oh, you know it's raining. Well, yeah, he's going to get wet anyway. He walked out without an umbrella. If he'd just taken 5 seconds to take an umbrella, the whole film wouldn't have happened, and we'd all be happier for it.
I'm sorry, I think I'm still reeling from your extended shit analogy a moment ago.
I mean, yeah, it was quite a bizarre analogy.
But with this one from me, I knew exactly what kind of film this was going to be before going into it. I mean, I'd seen the trailer. I've been part of this rodeo before. I've seen films like this before. They're very just what's the word? Just meticulously made and tailored to just pluck at the heartstrings of sad women and just overly sensitive men, and so you just cry, and it forces you to cry, and it tailors your emotions with sad modern pop songs to try and get an emotion out of you. And I absolutely resent that with films where a song will kick in just to try and get that emotion from you rather than letting it play out with the actors and the script. So I'd seen reviews on this. They were all pretty bad or very apathetic. You went to see it, and as viewers can tell now, you were just heated. You were enraged by it. I thought the movie was bad, but I don't think I had quite a strong reaction to it as you did. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a good movie. I wouldn't particularly recommend everyone rush out and see this movie. But it's not the worst movie I've seen this year, and I don't regret seeing it. It was an experience I have watched. If it was on TV and someone put it halfway through, I'd roll my eyes and suffer through it. This wasn't Independence Day Resurgence bad by any stretch of the imagination. This won't be Ghostbusters bad, probably. We're recording this the week before we see Ghostbusters. So that was kind of my initial impressions on it. We can go into it more now, though, if you like, if you want to...
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. It really isn't the worst film you'll ever see, ever. But it just struck a chord with me. And in the cinema, I was one of 3 people in there, in the tiniest screen you could possibly imagine. And I don't know, it just caught me on a really bad... It's by no means the worst film I've ever seen. It's by no means... To be honest, it's just rubbish. And it is rubbish. And I think my anger stems from the fact that it's just so boring, and it has one of the worst actresses I've ever seen on screen in it. And she is absolutely idiotic, and I spoke about this before, where she almost overtook my most hated character in cinema history, which is the woman from Happy Go Lucky. If you've ever suffered through that movie, then it's one you need to gouge your eyes and just completely smash your head into a brick wall until you can't remember even watching the thing. The woman in that is insufferable. And Emilia Clarke is almost as insufferable as her, and I just felt it caught me on a really bad day. And by no means, I mean, kind of calming down a bit. It wasn't like I said, it's not like Transformers bad. It's just bad. It's just average bad. It's boring bad. But I don't know. It's what else can I say? Like, apart from that, it's boring. And I mean, I'm sure you have a multitude of things to say about what you didn't like in it. So I'll let you sort of carry on before I completely rant myself to death.
No, it's all right. We're going to be ranting a hell of a lot more in a minute, trust me. So I'm just looking at sort of like the general consensus at the minute. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 59% based on 131 reviews. So that's, that's not awful. That's pretty middle of the road. And that's where I'd give it. But with these films, and this is just a trope with all these kind of films for me, it's one of the reasons that I just really don't gravitate towards these kind of films. I mean, I can get into romance movies. Me and Tate did a countdown of our top 10 favourite romantic movies, but I like the ones that are a bit more, well, smart. Ones like Annie Hall, for example, When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Easy A, 500 Days of Summer, films like that.
I mean, even stuff like the soppy stuff like The Notebook is better.
I haven't actually seen The Notebook, but I've seen a lot of people comparing that to this. That's the one where they're crying and they kiss in the rain.
Yeah,
right.
But it's got better actors in it, and it's just a much better movie. I'll admit that.
Mm. Well, actually, let's get into the characters now then, because as I said, there's quite a big cast, and what was kind of pleasant about this movie was all the way as the movie was sort of continuing on, an actor would show up I recognised, and I would perk up. I'd go, oh, that's Jenna Coleman from, The Companion. She was Clara in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Not that I kind of dropped off Doctor Who at that point, but I recognise who she is. And then it was actually 3/4 of the way into the movie. I won't actually divulge which bit of the film it was because we're not in spoilers yet. But it was probably the last scene with the character of Patrick in the film. And I went, oh my God, is that Neville Longbottom? And it just clicked with me at that part because he has changed so goddamn much, even from the last Harry Potter movie. The Charles Dance as well. I mean,
completely
that guy...
wasted.
Even in movies where he's wasted and he's just clearly, I think you said this after you came out, he's just picked up the check. Like, he just completely just showed up, did it, got his money and left. Like, there's no integrity in the role, really. He still commands a presence every time he's on screen. I mean, I love Charles Dance. In my opinion, he's not given enough projects recently. I mean, he was in Game of Thrones, but he's, spoiler alert, he got offed a couple of seasons ago. He was in Last Action Hero, which I absolutely adore. I love Last Action Hero, and he's fantastic in that, so it's always nice to see him. And then just sort of like a bunch of other incidental actors, really, but let's get into the main players. So, do you want to start with the character of Will, or shall we start with the character of Louisa? I'm going to let you choose.
I think we'll save the worst for last, and I'm going to say that's Louisa?
Yeah, okay. Definitely. So we'll start with Sam Claflin, who plays the character of Will. All the way through this movie, I was looking at this guy and I was going, I know this actor from something. I have seen a movie with this actor before, and it wasn't until just before we hit record I've gone back and looked at his filmography. He was Finnick in the Hunger Games movies, who I remembered he's the sort of athletic, bravado, obnoxious one at the beginning, right? And then he kind of...
Yeah, but see, here's the issue with that, is that he's terrible in this, but really good in that.
It's really good in that, and then his first role, which I saw him in, first film role, was the character of Philip Swift in Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. For anyone who has seen that movie, he is the insufferable cleric character who was the Orlando Bloom stand-in who falls in love with a mermaid, and I thought he was absolutely obnoxious. I wanted him out of the movie. There was no point to his character. I hated him. So I guess what we can gather from that is this is one of the most inconsistent actors we've seen. But you know what? I'm going to kind of stand up for him in this movie. No pun intended. I actually thought with the material he had, he did the best with it he could. I thought that initially when we meet his character, he's very disconnected. He's very alienated. He's kind of lost the will to live. He's just sort of wrapped up in his own... He's wrapped up in his own world. And I thought he played that sort of weathered, just beat down character as with the lines he was given as best as he could, and I think there was a lot of emotion to him throughout. The biggest problem for me with this film comes from the script, and I actually think that the screenplay was written by the author of the book.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the reasons for me to never read the book of this. The lines were, it sounds cliche, very scripted. The back and forth between characters didn't feel natural, and a lot of the back and forth was kind of the sarcastic reply. I'm trying to think of an example. It would be like, oh, why are you wearing tennis gear today, Emilia Clarke? Oh, well, aren't you going to take me on a glorious tennis course, Will? Or something. It was always like that, always that kind of refrain at the end of all of their dialogue. I don't know, that was just what I was picking up on, but I really just, the script for this was piss poor all the way through, and it made me hate these characters. It was almost like Attack of the Clones level poor romantic dialogue.
I mean, the issue, the other issue I have with it is, yes, the script is bad, but you could have gotten to the point at which it ends very, like, much sooner. It's way too long for what it is.
It's just under 2 hours, isn't it? I think the film,
and it feels longer. It really does. And I think with these sort of things, you can't be too sentimental. There's an overly, like, the message in it is, I think, just, well, that's kind of a political thing which I don't kind of want to get into.
Yeah, we can't go into that yet. We'll save that for spoilers. Yeah. But let's just leave it that the moral and overall message of this film is incredibly questionable.
Yeah, and I just think it's just a lackluster romance. Really, it doesn't feel, like you said, natural at all. They feel like they are literally, they've read the script just minutes before and gone on screen and did some acting. And
as I said, like, I didn't hate this movie, but I think that with a better script, maybe a better choice of lead actress, this could have been a decent enough movie. I really do. I don't think you can entirely write any film off. I think that there's always one specific area or even multiple areas where it fails, but I always think that you can take a story and craft it in some way and make it work for what it is. And I think you could have with this. It just needed a stronger script, and you know, they got the author on board. That's fair enough. It shows that they're keeping it close to the book and everything like that, but that's not always the case. I know with you, I love the movie. This is going on a bit of a tangent, but the film Watchmen. I mean, I love that movie, and I like that it's so close, but one of the comments you had was, and what a comment I've seen a lot of people have, is that the dialogue in that movie feels stilted, and that's, again, another example of where you just take dialogue from the book, or have, you know, someone involved with that. Then again, Alan Moore wasn't involved with it, but you know what I mean, it was the same dialogue. Now, I don't know whether the dialogue in this film was exactly lifted from the book, or if it was amended in some way, but it did feel cliche. It just didn't feel naturalistic, and I think with a romance thing, you need that naturalistic quality to it in order to get behind these characters.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are your opinions? You've heard my opinions on the wretch of an on-screen presence that is Emilia Clarke, but what did you think?
Okay. I'm gonna kind of, well, I'm not going to sit on the fence on this one. I don't think she's a good actress. I don't think she's a good actress, but I will say one thing. From this film, I've seen this more than I have in Game of Thrones. Facially, she is a very, very, very expressive actress in terms of, like, her eyebrows, especially. Her eyebrows are the best actor in this entire movie.
Her derp faces.
Not so much the dirt faces, but the eyebrows. It's almost reminded me of, like, Jim Carrey, like, back in the 90s, like, the crazy contorted facial expressions he can pull. I think Emilia Clarke's strength with her acting is more in, like, the quirky comedy style. Whenever she tries to be dramatic, whether that's all of her performance in Game of Thrones, or the certain emotional moments in this film, she can't do it. I'm sorry, she just can't do it. There's a scene in this movie which I can't go into, but it's a scene where the guy lays some pretty big news on her towards the end, and she just both the characters are really sad and they're both breaking down crying, and she's like talking through cry face, and it's laughable. Like, this guy's really trying, like, this guy's not bad, but she is just awful. But there were some scenes where she is kind of playing the manic pixie dream girl type character all the way through this movie, and that does get very old after a while. But when she's like having a back and forth with the Jenna Coleman character, she is kind of endearing in that manic pixie dream girl kind of way. So I think that if Emilia Clarke sticks to films like this, like the comedy, quirky personality kind of characters, she will have found her niche, basically, and I think that's where she's comfortable with, and she can grow there and just stay in that bit. But whenever she tries to be dramatic, especially in the movies, parts in the movie of this, it really, really doesn't work for me, and she shows her signs of not being able to act like in Game of Thrones or Terminator Genesis.
Wow.
I back to you.
I can't follow that up. I really can't, apart from the fact that she's obnoxious and her stupid clothes are obnoxiously awful, and how I hated the quirkiness of her. In fact, I think if it was either a different actress, or if she wasn't so quirky, I think I would have liked it more than I did.
Can you think of an actress maybe that would have played the role better? Hey, just get Jenna Coleman.
Linda Hamilton.
Linda. Oh my god, that'd be a very, very different kind of movie. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. Wow.
But no, I'm just trying to think of someone that could play that. See, in my head, the best manic pixie dream girl I can think of is like Emma Stone. But if I'm trying to think of like British actress, I probably could if you gave me long enough. On the spot, I can't really think of anyone, but I think you could. I think they cast her purely because she's kind of popular at the moment. The whole Game of Thrones train's rolling on. Everyone loves their Khaleesi, their Mother of Dragons, their Breaker of Chains,
and all the other stupid
first of her
names
name, titles, and I think that's really why she was cast. In all honesty, do you want to sort of rage on Emilia Clarke anymore, or do you think
I've just, what I've remembered, because it's been a day since I've seen the movie, and I've completely just most of what happened is just gone from my head, and I just remembered something.
Go
on. Joanna Lumley's in this.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. Like, when I was listening to the cast, I knew I'd forgot someone. For one very, very quick blink and you'll miss it scene.
Straight off the set of Ab Fab.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. She must have just been passing through that day. And it was like, oh, we got Joanna Lumley here. We actually have like talent. Can we get her in the movie? Like, oh, we don't have a role for her. Quick script rewrite. Okay, let's give her a scene with Emilia Clarke. Boom, there we go. It was almost like, well, I think she has more to do in Wolf of Wall Street, but Joanna Lumley's in that film too, almost playing exactly the same character. Let's be honest, she's playing Joanna Lumley.
Yeah.
But yes, that's what I mean. Like, the cast, like the side cast, like, you have a decent cast here overall. Like, especially like your supporting cast, you really would do. Let's talk about another character. Actually, he's not a main character, but he's kind of there. Matthew Lewis, Neville Longbottom. I'm just going to call him Neville throughout all this, because forever and always he's going to be Neville Longbottom to me. Patrick, the most two-dimensional, worst written character in this entire movie.
Yeah, if you need,
he has one character trait and they just fucking stick to it rigid.
Yeah, if you ever need a lesson on how not to write characters, then that would be it.
He's a caricature all the way through this movie. He is. And that's what I mean. No one feels real to me, and that's why it's very, very difficult for me to have that connection with anything to what's going on in the movie. And I get that with a lot of romance movies. It's all very idyllic, and I mean, this not to knock the set or anything, but I mean, it was a beautiful looking landscape, but it's set in the very picturesque, Pembroke in Wales with the castle, and everything looks amazing. And they go to Spain. They filmed it in Spain. I don't think it was actually meant to be that they went to Spain, but all these glorious places and everything's perfect and all that stuff. And at the core of it, I think the elements of the story are there. You've got these two characters there, and they're both trying to make each other appreciate life in a different way. He's trying to make her come out of her shell more and to just experience life and do all these things that she's kept herself from doing. She's a very sheltered character, and she's trying to bring him out of his shell. He's just, I mean, this isn't giving any away, I don't think, but he had this woman who he loved, and then after his accident, she kind of left him and then shacked up with one of his work colleagues, I believe. And they're getting married, so he's just like a broken man. He doesn't really have anything going for him. And then throughout the course of the movie, she's trying to bring him out of his shell. And I think with better actors and a better script, that message would have been a lot more clear. And without giving anything away, I think the ending kind of just slaps all of that in the face, quite honestly. I don't know whether to congratulate it for being ballsy, or on the other hand just think that, wow, that's a really tasteless way to go about the message of this film. Let's go into positives and negatives then, because we're kind of skirting very close to the spoilers. So let's go into positive, negatives, overall recommendation, then we'll hit some spoilers in this film. So Tom, if you can think of any, a positive and a negative from you.
A positive. It was good to see Neville Longbottom, and also Charles Dance was good for what he had to do. I mean, Charles Dance is always good for what he has to do, even in small bit parts that, you know, he just picks up the check for. Negatives: Emilia Clarke's acting, the characters, most of the writing in it is just shoddy, and I think sentimentality, it's too sentimental. And I had this problem with Warhorse as well, is the fact that it just tugged too much at the heartstrings, and I don't think that sat well with me when watching it.
Feels like the movie's made in a lab.
Yeah,
like just, let's get a sad pop song, throw that into the pot.
Yeah.
Let's get sappy actors looking sorrowful at each other and crying, and boom, throw that into the. It just felt too constructed. For me, positives. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I guess this kind of like merges into my recommendation as well, but I didn't hate this movie. I expected to go into this movie and just physically just loathe it and be reviled by it. I really wasn't. Like, I sat through it beginning to end, and it ended, and I was like, okay, I saw Me Before You. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again, but it's not the worst thing I've seen. The script is where it really lets itself down, and I think that Sam Claflin was fine. I think he played it fine for the material he was given. I think they needed a different lead actress other than Emilia Clarke. I don't know. That's kind of where I sat on it. Yeah. Positive was that it was better than, and it had a great supporting cast as well.
Before sort of spoilers, I'd also like to say that it was just terribly boring. I think I was more interested in the fact that the underside of the cinema seats had little indents so you could pull them down, and the sticky substance that was on my shoe.
No.
So I mean, it was so you just feel so disengaged, because if it was 90 minutes, I probably wouldn't have hated it so much. But the fact that it was longer than it needed to be by about half an hour, and it didn't go anywhere until like the last 30 minutes, was just it was so boring, like really boring.
I think just with films like this, I mean, I've read the book and actually enjoyed it, but Fault in Our Stars, I don't know if you've seen that. It seems like just from the poster and sort of the message in it, although when we get to the end of this film, it's a very, very different message. It just seems very samey. That's the problem with these kind of films. They all merge into one for me. Like, someone will say, have you seen P.S. I Love You? And I'm just like, what? That's just like, they're like come off an assembly line, these films. Yeah. They really, really do, and they just really have no identity of their own. So recommendation, I mean, it's been out for just over a month. If you like these kind of films, if you love these kind of just romance, drama, take a box of tissues, weep a little bit and leave, listen to some sad pop songs by Ed Sheeran in the soundtrack, then go. You'll probably enjoy it. You'll probably have a good time. You'll probably have just a cathartic moment with these emotions. But if you really don't like these kind of romance films, you could tell what kind of film it is just from the trailer or from the poster. Don't go and see it, because you're not going to get anything new from it. It doesn't really try to do anything new. It's very paint by the numbers, and there are plenty of other better romance films out there that you should be watching other than this. This really just, it's samey. It is what it is. Maybe read the book. Maybe you'll prefer that better, but I wouldn't overly recommend this movie. If it's on it feels like this. Well, this is going to really go over the heads of people who are watching this in the US or anywhere else, but it feels like a mid-afternoon Channel 5 movie.
It does. I actually, thinking it, I thought this is just one notch above being a student film.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, really pretentious all the way through.
Yeah.
So that's our spoiler-free section. So we're going to get into spoilers now. I'm not really sure how much more we're going to have to talk about this, but it's kind of the big ending because we need to address this. And it has been addressed a lot. So if you haven't seen Me Before You and you are still curious to go and watch it, go and see it, come back and listen to what we have to say now. So the ending. He kills himself. He chooses to go through with his assisted suicide. Oh boy, I'm just going to read a little bit off the Wikipedia page here. So, the final section of the Wikipedia page, in big bold letters, has controversy. The film has suffered a backlash from many people in the disabled community due to what they perceive as an underlying message that people with disabilities are a burden on their families and careers, and claim the film promotes the view that people are better off dead than disabled. And I guess that did take me off guard a little bit in the movie. Unfortunately, it was spoilt for me, though. But just to see it actually play out on screen, you're like, oh my god, they're actually doing this. I thought this movie was going to end where, he's set on... He's got nothing to live for. She's trying to do all these things for him and take him on places and do things they've never done. To help him appreciate his life, but he's still not having anything. And then I thought, by the end of the film, he might come round and it'll be this nice message where... he learns to live with it because he's found her and she's found her love, and it'll be this nice, wrapped up in a neat bow ending. And I guess this is where the actual title of the film comes in, because he is actually kind of really selfish at the end of this movie, just me before you. And the fact that he wants her there to watch this happen, everyone just seems really cool with him just wanting to die.
Yeah, see...
It's this awkward commentary, isn't it, on euthanasia and everything like that.
I mean, I kind of don't want to spread my liberal horseshit that comes out my mouth sometimes, but I think it is a very touchy subject. And whilst I agree with the decision being made by the person, I think it has to be in an extreme circumstance. Because the guy in this can still function. He can still have a relatively normal life. Okay, yeah, he's bound to a wheelchair for the rest of his life, but he's perfectly functionable. He can talk. He can joke. He's rich.
He lives in a castle. Exactly. He can go anywhere he wants to. Rich. I mean, money really seems like no issue for this family. I mean, at the start of the film, that when she's being shown around. Oh, actually, I need to talk about that fucking just job interview scene. She is doing everything wrong in this interview and just being an utter arsehole, and then just I think Charles Dance walks in and then she's like, perfect, you've got the job, and I'm like, wait, what, did I miss something?
So rule 101 when writing is just don't add in plot convenience to make your characters get to the point where you want them to. This is probably the scene that I despised, because she is so incompetent in that job interview that it's only by writer's convenience that she gets out of it. No person in their sane mind would hire someone who has absolutely zero experience caring for someone with such a severe disability. Well, it's not so much severe, like spinal injury.
Yeah, but they say that, I mean, he has to be on loads of pills, doesn't he, to control his pneumonia because he gets very sick.
Experience with that. And nobody in their right mind would allow someone like so inexperienced to fulfill a job role that requires so much planning and preparation and knowledge about what drugs to take. And I mean, it's only because the writers need them, or the writer rather needs Emilia Clarke to get into the same room as him so they can have a budding romance. That is the only reason she gets the job. And you sit there thinking that there's absolutely no reason why you should be employed. And I watched and I just thought, this is just insane.
The scene that galled me the most, though, this is jumping a bit further ahead in the film now, but I mean, she's completely out of her depth, and all of them know that. I mean, he's got an Australian carer as well, or New Zealand. I think he's Australian.
I mean, at the start, when he started talking, I couldn't understand a word he was saying. His accent
I think
caught me off the guard.
I think he's Australian because he uses a bit of the Aussie lingo in there, but he says, right, these are all the pills, and he goes through it, and she's just got this blank look on her face, like, doi, 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 and it's like a confused dog where they just, like, tilt their head on the side.
Yeah.
She's just like that, and he says, all right, it's all in the manual, but don't worry, I've got a lot of patients very near in the area, I can get here, I'm always nearby, you've got my number, call me, you've got Charles Dance's number, you've got Janet McTeer's number, the parents of Will's character, it's going to be fine. When shit hits the fan, she tries calling the mum, answer machine. She calls Charles Dance, answer machine. She calls the carer, who you think would be on pretty much 24-hour service, and it's answer machine. And then when things go wrong, because I think they say that he can't sweat properly or something like that, and he goes into like a state of shock or something like that, and then he comes over, and then he like chastises Emilia Clarke for not knowing what to do, and he's like, God, it's in the manual. And she was like, yeah, but you said to call you, and he's just like, yeah, what the fuck ever, you should have called me. And she's like, I did, for like hours. That was just, again, one of those convenient scenes to show that dramatic change and like what's at stake in the film without any sort of like legitimate cause, like, you know, causality up until that point.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Completely.
And I mean, really the whole film is just kind of a series of, this character's very depressed. Let's go to a concert. Oh, okay, he kind of liked that. Okay, let's go to the horse racing. Oh, he didn't like that one. Let's go on holiday. Oh, he kind of likes it, but then he gets depressed because he can't do any of these things with me. I mean, I guess if this is where I'm really, really torn on the ending with this, because on the one hand, I do think it's just like a really just like horrible fucking message. Like, I completely agree with all the controversy. And I mean, if people are in this similar state with a disability, and they're like speaking out about films like this, saying this is like a horrible representation and just like really, really offends them, then you know you're doing something wrong with this. But on the one hand, like, I like that message where he kind of just breaks out and says that, look, I want you to be able to have these opportunities with someone who can, you know, who you can do them with. I kind of liked that bit. Like, I liked his reasoning behind that. But so part of me is like, it is still paint by the numbers. It is a very predictable film, but I'm thinking if he did come round at the end, would that have been even more predictable? So that's where I'm really, really torn on the ending, because I do like the final scene, like when she gets to Paris, which he describes earlier in the movie as his favourite place, and he kind of has this letter.
And then she sees him sitting opposite him and gives him
I was thinking that too. I was thinking that too when I was watching this movie. And then he also leaves in the Batcave with no training. So I mean, we've kind of talked about the ending, but is there really anything else we can talk about this movie?
No, I think I would agree with the controversy surrounding it, because I mean, the guy is rich, he can afford all this stuff. His parents are rich, but and to be honest, he hasn't really given it a chance.
No.
I mean, people in this situation live happy lives. Of course they do. They still find a way to function and do things that they never did before.
And I mean, his whole argument in this film is that I want someone who can take care of you and give you all these wonderful things that I'm already giving you.
Yes, exactly. But then you get into the dark territory of, oh, she'll just mooch off him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, I think Charles Dance is pretty cool with that. Like, just motherfucking blank check over here. Just just whip the checkbook out. Like, how many zeros do you want me to add to the end of this thing? It's I've pretty much.
Oh,
said...
that's another thing before we sort of wrap up, is the not so clear money trouble of their family, which I didn't really understand, because they don't really they live in what is a small but nice property, and they don't appear to have much money. They say they have money trouble. You don't actually see it. Show not tell is the phrase coined. Oh, and then for some reason the granddad in it, right?
Yeah.
I thought, like, I just saw him. Might have been looking away, but at this point, does he appear?
Oh my god! Yeah,
he just
you're right.
Turns up. It's like,
yeah.
Did they just let an old man into their house? Who is this?
I was just expecting him. No. I was just expecting him to go like, "My name is Bill Wilkins, and I'm 73 years old." Yeah, God, you're right. Yeah, the money trouble. I'm guessing, like, well, clearly, like, the dad was out of work, and like Jenna Coleman was like getting ready to go back to college, and she had a kid,
which
and
you
Emilia
never
Clarke...
see. So you don't know the trouble facing the family, because we never see it.
No, and it's just not very clear. And then that kind of gets rectified when Will gives him, like, I think it's like head of maintenance or something, isn't it? Yeah, it's just, I've said everything I can on this. I'll just finish with this. I mean, we said this, Thea Sharrock, it's really just feature film, directorial debut. Do you think it was a good first effort for what material she had to direct?
No,
or
I don't.
How far can you give, like, the fault of the actors? Like, does that stem from the script or the director, or is it a bit of both?
I would like to see if she improves the directing on her next film. I mean, it was just so... The shots were very typical. They're, like, very... I don't know. Like I said, it was just a notch above a student film. And that's kind of what I felt throughout the whole thing. And that was... That stems from the way the camera moves, how it's directed, the actors. It just feels very studenty, and also the script and the story itself is a very studenty story. Yeah,
I'll agree with that. Final recommendation, as I said, if you do like these kind of films, these romantic drama films, it's pretty much just, more or less another off the assembly line one of these films. So check it out. You might enjoy it. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. In all honesty, I thought I was just gonna slip slowly into madness watching this film, but I really didn't. I watched it beginning to end. It was what it was. I didn't have this just revulsion towards it as you clearly did, Tom, but it did have some bad performances, especially Emilia Clarke. These just aren't my kind of movies.
No.
They really, really aren't. They're really not my kind of
films. But they can be done well.
They can be, and as you said at the start, I mean, as a critic, I guess we consider ourselves critics. I mean, we do this on YouTube, and we love talking movies. You do have to give that film the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I've seen all the trailers for Ghostbusters. I've seen clips from Ghostbusters. And I know it's not going to be a good movie. But there's always that hope. There's always that faint, glimmering, shining candle of hope that the film... And that's kind of what I went into with this one as well. So I've pretty much said everything on me before you. Have you got any final words? Or have you said everything?
I've said everything I want to about the film. And I think if you're going in as a critic or as just an audience member, you have to, being critical about film, you have to watch the bad movies. It's no good going to always watch the good ones. You have to see the bad with the good.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, the last couple of weeks have been really, really bad for films with me, and it looks like it's going to carry on until just before the end of July, where hopefully we start getting into some good ones.
Yeah.
So that will do it for our review on Me Before You. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of the movie, as it has been out for a while. Let us know some of your favourite romantic movies, and please keep your hate comments towards us about Emilia Clarke to a bare minimum. Be civil, offer your own opinion, that's fine. In terms of what's coming up on the channel, we are hoping to get much more into movie reviews. You and me, Tom, we've got some lined up. You're off to see the new Tarzan movie tomorrow, so we'll have a review for that. And then July is pretty much just non-stop throughout the end. We'll have BFG, there'll be Star Trek Beyond, Ghostbusters. Oh, I really don't want to see it, but as we just said, there's always that hope, so we'll have a review on that probably as well. Hopefully a drunken review. That'll be pretty funny for Ghostbusters if we can make that happen. There'll be reactions from me as well. I know I haven't been very regular on those as of late, but you know, as soon as more trailers start coming out, I will get back onto those. And also we will be recording tomorrow night. I'm not sure when it's going up, probably at the weekend. We're starting a new bracket show, which Tate can go into this much more in detail, as this was kind of his brainchild, but we all come up with selections. For our first episode, we're doing our favourite TV scenes of all time, and we kind of whittle it down and vote on what we think is the all-out winner. So that will be interesting to see. And Tom, Film Reflection is back.
It is.
The latest episode was Stand By Me, if you want to just talk about some of your upcoming ones.
So some of the more upcoming ones is in 2 weeks' time. It will be The Truman Show, and that will be... I'm probably going to rewrite some of it to make it longer, because there is so much to say about that. After that, there is The Fountain, the Darren Aronofsky masterpiece. And then after that, it will be sort of comparisons and also retrospectives in a similar sort of vein, but it will still be in the Film Reflection series. And there'll be tons more to come. I just need to figure out an order in which I'm going to do them. That's kind of the hard bit, and the writing of the movie as well.
And I think so far, like, you scheduled yourself for like a release once every 2 weeks at the minute, just to get them like a smooth running and smooth flow of them coming out. So do look out for those. So far, you've got Blade Runner, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward, Robert Ford. Sorry, I said Robert Hall, didn't I? And obviously Stand By Me was the latest one. So please do check those out. It's a great series. So a lot of exciting things happening on the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button. And until the next video, we will see you guys next time.
Thanks very much.